Okay. This is so exciting. We're so excited. We've done the sports romance episode a number of times. Twice, right? Before, Jen?
Yeah.
And, so we've had a lot to say about, sports and balls and sports balls. But this time we're going to do it right because we asked Jessica Luther, sports expert, investigative journalist, author, podcaster, who has worked extensively on the intersection of sports and gender, and also specifically gendered violence. And fun fact, is a big romance reader. And I know Jessica from long before her book, Unsportsmanlike Conduct and Loving Sports, because you have been a historical romance reader, and we met that way. So welcome, Jessica Luther.
Thank you so much.
To Fated Mates.
So thrilled. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
We are so excited because you are no longer doing Burn It Down, right?
Yeah, I did Burn It All Down, which was a feminist sports podcast with 4 of my friends. It was 5 women co-hosting, and we did that for about 5.5 years. We went on hiatus a year ago, and we're still technically on hiatus. There's some behind the scenes things happening, but the podcast ended about a year ago. But there's a lot of good stuff in that back catalog. I think we did a lot of good analysis within sports. If that's something that your listeners are interested in, you can find a lot of good feminist sports stuff there.
And also, I mentioned that you're a writer, but your second book, which is Loving Sports When They Don't Love You Back, Dilemmas of the Modern Sports Fan, is really fascinating because it is all about, in a lot of ways, how to be a woman who loves sports.
Yeah, how to be a marginalized person and love sports. I'm sure that we'll get into this about why I love sports romance novels as someone who also criticizes sports all the time. But it can be so difficult to sort of break into a sports space because they're so manufactured. They're created to be exclusive. And we could certainly talk about this with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I feel like that was
it feels like the perfect week to be talking
example,
about this.
Yeah, of the way that men in particular freak out when, white men in particular freak out when anyone tries to enter the sports space and be there in any kind of way, forget a serious way. And so, yeah, the book is very much about the issues that you face.
I really had this in my face very recently in a real way, which is, so my husband is a huge sports fan. We live in Chicago, and we are season ticket holders to the Chicago Sky. So this is the WNBA is the sports we went to 20 games this year and it was awesome. The season before we just went to 5 games and we just loved it so much that I was like, let's just do more of this. And then the year before when they won, we actually were at the game when they won. I came home and it was kind of Daryl, did you know the Chicago Sky were in the WNBA finals? And he was he's kind of I don't, he's a big basketball guy, but he hadn't followed the WNBA at that point. And he was like, wait, they have Candace Parker? I mean, she's a superstar. So we went to this game and it was this amazing experience. And I am just it changed me. I'm a huge WNBA fan. I don't really understand basketball, but I love watching women be awesome. Right. So we go to these games and it's been this great experience. And then for his birthday, because he's a huge Raiders fan, we talked about maybe going to a game in Vegas. We used to live in Oakland. We were Raiders season tickets holders for a while. And it was really funny because I went to a couple games. He went to all of them. And it was this thing where every time he went to a Raiders game, he would come home and tell me about a fight he witnessed. And I was like, look, I love the Raiders. I'm a fan.
No appeal to that.
I love the fight, right? But so anyway, I haven't been to a men's professional game in a really long time, but I bought him the Bears Raiders ticket. So this last weekend. And immediately I was like, this is a very different vibe from the WNBA. And this woman was sitting next to me, we just bought tickets off StubHub or whatever, and they had 6 season tickets, so it's 4 behind her, and then she and her son's girlfriend are sitting next to me, and she was she's it's a lot of angry men. She's it's just a lot of anger because they're not having a very good season. They didn't end up winning that game. And I was floored. I'd sort of forgotten that the vibe of being a fan in a men's sports space is so much different than the vibe of being a WNBA fan. And I was like, I think I'm done. I'm just going to stick with the WNBA now forever. I'm good.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. I mean, so many people love sports because there's an emotional journey and then eventually some kind of catharsis, whether it's a high or a low. And that's part of but no stakes. Like there's no material difference to your actual life and your ability to live based on whatever the outcome is.
You wouldn't believe that necessarily. From the way I grew up in Patriots country and Red Sox country. And like when you win a major thing, like cars get flipped. Like it's crazy out there.
That's what you can put all the emotion into it because the actual outcome doesn't materially affect your ability to like pay rent and like live most of the time, unless you're like gambling, my goodness. But yeah, so you get so much emotion and men often get real angry when they're in groups together. Like that's the one that comes through. To this day, like when I go to women's sporting events, I cry about everything. Let's just be clear, but I will cry at the beginning of most of those events because I'm just so thrilled that this is like a thing I'm able to attend and be a part of and see. Like growing up, I was born in 1980. I'm very tall. I'm 6 feet tall. Can't tell that, especially for listeners. And like I played middle school basketball. I was not good at it, which was why I say specifically middle school basketball because I stopped there. But it was so hard to like be a fan of women's basketball. Like my parents had bought me a giant coffee table book of just pictures. And I assume it had text that went with it. But what I remember are the pictures of women playing basketball, collegiate basketball. And I would just flip through that because like that was the thing that I had. And so I still get emotional. Like my emotions tied to being able to watch women play sports are just so different than like what I myself would carry into a men's sporting event. If I guess I go to men's soccer. We have a men's soccer team here now, a professional one. And next season will be season ticket holders. But even that's different because they're constructing that fandom like from the ground up. It's a very different kind of thing, which is part of why I'm willing to participate in it because I'm with you, Jen. Like you get in those spaces and you're like, oh, well, nope.
Yeah. I was like,
not for me.
Well, and my husband's really fascinated with this very tall man who plays for the Spurs. Wemby? Yeah, whatever. I don't remember. You guys, I'm sorry. I'm like sports people. And I was like, well, maybe we could go see the Spurs play the Bulls. Like maybe that would be fun. And I was like, hold on. How much are these tickets? And in these, and I was just like,
are they really just nuts?
Oh, yeah, like insane. And I was like, you know what? I did not have a good enough time at this Bears game to want to go to like a Bulls game. You know what I mean? It was just really interesting. I was kind of like, it was a shocking kind of experience to be like, oh, this is why I love going to the Sky.
One of the interesting things that they find when they look at women's participation in sport, girls and women's participation in sports, is that there's often a pretty high participation within grade school, right? Because we have Title IX in the US. Most girls in some way are interacting with sports. A lot of them like it. A lot of them will play. And that starts to fall off when they go into college, and then especially once they're out of college, even as fans. And I think, Jen, you're like, part of that is exactly what you're talking about. They're like, wait a second, this is not the sporting culture that I was a part of. I don't actually want to participate in this. I'm clearly not included, right? We're not idiots. Like we know when we go there that we're not.
Like they'll sell a pink Bulls jersey or whatever, but it's not really for me. Yeah.
And so you see this like steep drop off in like women's sports fandom as they get older. And I think like when I was thinking about sports romance novels and why people like them so much, this was one of the reasons, I think, because it allows you a way in that feels safer, like a world that's been constructed specifically for us as readers that is often a totally different culture than what we actually experience in real life in relationship to sports that might be closer to what we imagine or what we remember from our past. But even if it's not, it's at least some kind of safer sporting culture that we get to. That's true for me. Like really that is
smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I absolutely recognize that like when I'm working on terrible pieces about abuse in sports. Like my refuge is reading about really nice people in sports who love and care for each other, right?
Right.
And you're
Right.
like, I don't even care. This is real.
And so, yeah, it's like there's a way in as the reader, but also like teamwork is really valued, right? Like people do the right thing. Like we had a really interesting conversation with the Jane Ann Krentz, who pointed out that like in genre fiction, people are called upon to do the right thing. So, if there's some sort of like dilemma about like the team or, someone's a bad guy on the team, like they're going to do the right thing. Like that's, so it's a way of just like sort of reading almost like this kind of fairy tale like experience. And it's also like, as you said, like it doesn't matter if you don't know the rules, right? Like the book is going to teach you what you need to know about the play as it relates to the character, right? And their performance, not necessarily as it relates to like the experience of the crowd or like the shame or anger or like any of those other things.
Well, and it also, Jessica mentioned stakes, right? The appeal of sports in general is this sort of sense of like, the old battle, the like, Roman gladiator shit. And so you feel like there are stakes in the sport, but romance is really it's the literature of stakes in a lot of ways, like stakes on every level. And so it feels like intuitive that as readers, as romance readers, people who understand the genre intuitively, we are drawn to books that are about where the characters have stakes, are having emotional stakes, and they are about something that also has, a really concrete external stake.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I think one of the most obvious places where sports romance novels are doing work against the sports culture is whenever you have a gay romance in sports where they're both players, right?
Sure.
Like we could certainly talk about Casey's baseball books. But and a lot of them are like these men working within this culture that obviously does not like them. And so you get often you get a different kind of story. Like you do get the stories where it resolves in the last few chapters and then they're together. But sometimes you get stories where they're together early on and then the actual struggle is against like the homophobia that they're experiencing within their own sport. And then the triumph happened. It's coming, right? So like you can count on that. So you're willing to sort of go on this journey with them. There are also, and I don't have any by name, I apologize, but I've definitely read books where it's like Schitt's Creek, where homophobia does not exist. Like what if we imagined a sporting culture where two men could just be together on a team? Like there will be teams where all the men, it's like with WNBA. Yeah. It's like the hockey version or the baseball version or something of the WNBA where like all the players are dating each other and they're happy and together and like homophobia is not even a part of that. And I think that's there's so much beauty in that romance novels allow for that sports itself does not. And to me, I'm going to gravitate towards that. I want to see that in the real world much, much more than I think I will in my lifetime.
I can do the second one, but like the first one where like they're really dealing with the homophobia. I mean, especially like in hockey, like if there's a sports romance that like everyone loves. Have you read Rachel Reed's Heated Rivalry?
I don't think I have, but I'm also terrible at titles.
No, and it's fine. And the only reason I'd like raise it is because they are like closeted. Like it's Ilya, I think, and Shane, and they've essentially like the book opens with them like essentially like on the ice, like at each other's throats, right? And then like the next scene or whatever transitions, and everybody, like if I'm getting these details wrong, like I'm sorry, this book is beloved. They're like lovers and they've been like secretly hooking up when they're in the same town or the same city forever, but like they're totally closeted. And for me it's been like I really like struggled with then like the news that like the NHL like banned like pride tape on like hockey sticks. And
like,
I'm just
they
like
took the tiniest
Cup,
thing, right?
Yes.
The tiniest thing, and they were like, "Not this."
No.
Yeah.
And I really am fascinated by like, I'll just say it. Like, there's a way in which I find hockey romance in particular right now to be like almost like I don't know, like it just seems real wrong. Like I'm like, here it is, like so wildly popular. It's super white. And, I felt like that's something we used to talk about with hockey romance. Like, boy, it used to be football romance. And then all of a sudden it was hockey romance. And now that conversation just seems to be gone. And it's kind of like, well, what's our responsibility and I say responsibility is maybe the wrong word. Like it's fantasy. Nobody has any responsibility, write the books you want. But there is part of me that's fascinated by the rise of hockey romance without the discussion about hockey as like sort of a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you live in Chicago and their NHL team has had horrific like abuse. I don't even say like reports of abuse that have within like the team against players. And
like internal.
Oh yeah, they hid sexual assault against a player in order to not. It was when they won the championship, and they admitted we did not tell anybody because we did not want this to hurt our championship run. Like just very
wow.
So yeah, I find all the issues. Hockey, it's so interesting that so many people love hockey romances. I do think race is a big, big part of that. It's a very white sport, and so you don't have to worry about writing around that. But
right.
I think this is just a problem in general, though, Jen. I think, if you're going to go into the sports world, like I wrote a whole book about all the issues within sports, and I don't know. I think there's so much wrong with sports, and with like, I read a book again. I'm not going to remember the name. I'm so sorry, but it was college football, white quarterback, and he was dating the coach's daughter, who was amazing. Like she had been through a big trauma. I think maybe her sister had died, and she'd taken up pole dancing, and that was like her thing. And I loved this book. I did not think I would. Read it, loved it, but I don't have like a high opinion of coaches. I have seen too much in my life. I try to start, my idea of them starts in a neutral place, and I try to start in a neutral place and move from there, rather than I think most people start very high on coaches. And so when they do something wrong, it's like, could they have really done that? Because they chose to be a coach. So like in this book, she's the coach's daughter, and like the dad's not perfect, but he is a good man, and and I just have to ignore that. I just have to be like, that's a trope. People love it. They are not me. They don't spend their days thinking about this. I'm not, I love these two characters. I love what she did with this woman. I'm just going to run with it. But I do have to do a lot of that kind of work myself while I'm reading these books, because there's so much in sports that is, when you look at actual sports, you cannot square what you're reading.
So many sports romances, the athlete is the man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready for this part, because I love when it's woman.
Well, I found myself thinking that to me, I wonder if it's because it's like a shortcut to him having emotions.
Yeah, because the season is emotional. You can build it right in.
I think there's a second piece to that, though. Yes, absolutely. I think it's emotions. You're able to see, like, here's a man who feels joy and sorrow and literal pain and emotional pain. Like, and that, has like, no choice,
the camaraderie
right? Like
of his friends and his team.
That's the part that I'm really fascinated by. So, obviously, there's a lot of discussion in the world, and there's a lot of discussion about whether or not this is actually a real thing or something that we need to worry about. But there's a lot of discussion in the world, and I think it's legitimate in many ways that men in America, specifically in the United States, struggle to make and keep friendships and maintain communities of other men with whom they can be honest and have like valuable relationships outside of romance, right? And I think that certainly becomes a burden, if you have a partner who is a man, and it becomes the burden of women in a lot of ways in a relationship to build and maintain a community of friends for couples and children, and to model friendship. And, Jen and I have been talking about this a lot in general, but these kinds of burdens, and they do feel like burdens in a lot of ways, even though friends are not burdens, but like the work of friendship falls to women. But in these books, largely, especially when you're talking about huge book series where, where characters are it is almost entirely men on a team. So I'm thinking about like the, Kate Meter hockey series or the Serena Bowen hockey series or, even Susan Elizabeth Phillips with, football, Naima Simone with football. Like these books deliver a fantasy where men are carrying the water of friendship.
Yeah.
For the communities, right? So then what Naima's whole series is called like the WAG series, right? Well, Wives and Girlfriends. And they become the wives and girlfriends become friends, but
Right.
they are made friends and kept friends by a community of men who build the community and do the work of keeping it there.
Yeah, I mean, that seems amazing, honestly.
Fantasy, right? Yeah. Like if somebody else could plan what we were doing every Saturday night. I mean, I don't want to sit. I know, right? And I do think like that if we talk about romance as like being a reflection of like what we want out of the world, right? Like our desires and expectations in the world, it's sort of impossible not to think about it in terms of what sports romance does is really combat male loneliness. I mean, I hate that phrase, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, that's really great. I like that idea. The other thing I was thinking a lot about, Bobby Knight died yesterday, day before, famous, Indiana?
Famous angry man.
Yeah, like the angriest man, like a bully, like just a true tormentor of his athletes. Like for me, I don't care that he won championships because he really had to belittle a lot of people to do it. And the way that, I was just thinking about this, that there's a way that sports are just built to dehumanize athletes, that like we sometimes do it with coaches. Like there are people auxiliary to sport that this will bleed onto, but it's mainly athletes. And I think part of being a sports fan, especially talk about angry male sports fans, is that they get to just yell whatever they want at these people, to think whatever they want about them, to really tear into them and unleash a lot of shit. Am I allowed to curse?
Right. Yeah.
Podcast?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yes,
Unleash a lot of
please.
shit onto these athletes, and you have to really not care about them as actual people in order to do that. And I think that's probably true just across the board, whether or not it's men or women as athletes. But I think, men tend to do this more. And so like, I think of someone like Bobby Knight, everyone wants to talk about the championships. And I'm like, all I want to do is talk about these athletes, like clearly over and over and over again, this man harmed. And there's something for me too, when like part of what we love about romance in general is characters, right? Just the character building. And like Sarah talked about the world around them, but there's something so beautiful in some ways about like you get these in-depth character studies of people in sport that's often stripped out of so much of what we think about when we think about athletes. And you get to see their entire world. You meet their moms and what they eat for breakfast and like what their dog's name is. And, and you can get that from profiles in sports media. Absolutely. We love to profile an athlete, but there's something else here where like as a sports fan, I love seeing a fully rounded, it helps remind me that these are fully rounded people and that I often don't know shit about any of them in real life. And I think that's another thing that you're getting out of reading these novels. That's something I'm getting out of reading these novels.
I mean, I like a book with a lot of plot. I like a book with like a lot of stakes. And so, they're going to march towards something, the end of the season. They're going to, have to grapple with the idea of being traded or an injury or, an accident. And so I feel like that's the other thing. The other reason I like them is, I like a book where things happen and, things are going to happen in a sports romance. And I feel really grateful for like the external structure that builds that right into the system.
That makes me, I also think I'm one of these people, I love when time progresses. Like my personal thing is I don't love like they meet and 1 week they're in love and it's over. I like when there's time and it builds. Yeah. And like often built into, because it's built around a season. It's not always true. Certainly. They appear in sports romances.
There's more time. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is something about, I think that's part of it for me too, is that you often do, like you said, Jen, get like a season worth of stuff going on.
Well, and also you can't discount, we talk a lot now on the podcast about like the Venn diagrams of a lot of these tropes, right? Like, but part of the itch that sports romance can scratch is the celebrity piece as well, right? This idea that and it's not just larger than life celebrity, it's larger than life celebrity who has like a perfect, like is technically perfect, right? Like their body functions in like a perfect way. And they're wanted by every human.
Right.
Right. For whatever
Absolutely.
reason.
I had written the word bodies in all caps.
Yeah,
That's part of why people love
like,
sports romance. Because you just...
Jen likes to say it all the time that like part of the appeal of the sports romance is that they can like pick you up and spin you around and...
Absolutely.
You're going to have sex upside down and...
Oh, I actually, wait.
Jen
I'm
has
all like, wait, that's on my list. Not upside down, but like a lot of upper body strength is on my list.
Yeah.
There's an amazing SNL skit. Have you seen this?
I don't know.
It's about...
yes, the football players.
Yes, where you hire the football players with the tiny men. And they bring the like big football players in to do
like
this
the
stuff.
Kelsey brothers come and lift you up.
To lift you up, to do all that part of it for the men who are unable to do that for their romantic partners. Like it's such an idea that even SNL has
realized like this is sexy.
Yes.
We should name. I looked up your book was actually very easy to find about the pole dancer.
I had told you about it.
Yeah, and I was like, I
help.
can Google that. No, and I was like, so is this the right one? Quarterback Sneak by Candy Steiner.
Yep. The pole dancing woman. I enjoyed it very much. Yes.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Elle Kennedy, author of The Graham Effect. And
Jen.
if you read The Deal,
Jen. I mean, we both love The Deal. And this is second generation. Graham, the hero of The Deal, has had a daughter, Gigi. And Gigi has exactly 3 goals, Jen.
I love how Romance Generation is like 5 years long. Like, how long ago is The Deal?
Fine. Listen, I am so ready for Daddy Graham. So ready. Anyway, or Daddy Garrett. Okay. 1, she wants to qualify for the women's national hockey team. 2, she wants to win Olympic gold. And 3, she wants to get out from underneath her famous father's shadow. So far, so good. She's qualified for the team. However, she needs a little bit of improvement in her game behind the net. And so she is paired up with Luke Ryder, who is 6'5", built, opinionated, rude, and sexy as hell. Now, listen, he is the co-captain of this hockey team.
Wrap it up. I'm ready to buy, Sarah.
He is a rival. He's got a summer coaching spot that he's angling for, and he needs Garrett Graham, the legendary Garrett Graham, to help him get there. I'm guessing like banging the boss's daughter is not the best way to do that, but I believe in us, Jen. I believe everything's going to work out fine. And I can't wait. I'm like running to read
All right.
this book
The Graham Effect, everybody, is available in print, ebook, and audio in Kindle Unlimited. Also, if you would like an exclusive paperback with extended chapters, is also available at Barnes & Noble. So you guys, you're ready to hit that. It is The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. Oh, I just wanted to slap shot that into the net, everybody. Woo!
They're not the only ones slapshotting things.
All right, we're going to stop now.
Anyway, all right. Thanks to Elle Kennedy for sponsoring this week's episode.
So, do we want to talk about books and then sort of like talk about some more things as we do
Let's
that?
do it.
Okay.
I have some things. I do feel like there is some things like we've already talked about that I don't have like great I have examples of, but for example, like I think if you really want that celebrity, if you like me love a celebrity, that Sawyer Bennett hockey series, which is like the Cold Fury series, I think all the books are named for men, like just they're like Reed or like Ryder. I don't think there's a Ryder, but like they all, and it is like the pure like basically like Navy SEALs, but make them hockey in the sense that, which is like, that is a real like kind of it's not a trope, but it is, we can see that theme over and over again in romance, but like there are just 10 of them. They are one after another. They go down real easy. And I actually I listen to them on audio to and from school pickup because like they go down real easy and you don't have to remember. So like if you skip a day, it's fine. But those are really fun. And my favorite one is Reed. And he is a hockey player who doesn't like the spotlight. And he's bought a very nice townhouse, and his next door neighbor is an emergency room doctor. And there's this great party. I will say there's a party scene in this book that I really love because it delivers all of those like great moments where every player in this is all the men on the hockey team have come to a party at one of their houses. I think it's a Stanley Cup, like they've won the Stanley Cup, and now they're at this like celebratory party, and they have all brought their partners with them. So again, it's that sort of like this party has been planned by a man for all of his men friends, and you just get to go and hang out with all of these people.
Sounds nice.
And it's great.
That sounds nice.
And then someone from an older book goes into labor, and then the heroine, because she's an emergency room doctor, is like, I'm here. So there's a little competence porn happening here. And then he's like, oh my God, I got a banger because she's amazing. But she's busy
delivering a baby.
Yeah.
I love that. I did, when I was thinking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, I don't know why it hit on me, but like Kristen Callahan has a book called Make It Sweet, which is about a former hockey player who is not okay with being a former hockey player. He's had to leave because he had so many concussions.
This is my favorite, by the way.
And
hero, like archetype, like the Roy Kent of it all. Like,
yes, it is Grumpy Sunshine, and he is like his grandmother and her grandmother are friends, I want to say, and his grandmother owns this like amazing palatial estate outside of like Palm Springs, somewhere in California. And she is on like a Game of Thrones type of show, and her character is about to be killed off, but most people don't know that, but she's very famous. Yeah. And she needs to go somewhere to figure out what's next in her life now that everyone's about to find out that her character has died. And so her grandmother's like, you should go stay with my friends. Yeah. You know, my friend who has this palatial estate. Just so happens that the hockey player is living there as well.
He's also a chef, right?
And he's a baker.
Yeah.
He's a secret baker. And so you just have these two people at this point in their life where they don't know where they're going. Yeah. They're not sure what's next, but they've both been at the highest of highs in their careers. And he is really not doing well with the retirement, which is... well,
there's something really compelling about that idea, too, that all sports at some point it's almost like when you are at the moment where everyone else in the whole world is just hitting their like super duper stride, you are too old. Like the rest of us, we hit 40 and we're like, now we're like making our money and like comfortable in our job and feeling like we have some sort of plan. Maybe most of us, hopefully. But like, not in sports.
No. Isn't it the most depressing thing when you're watching? They're like, they're so old. They turned 33 like last week. And you're like, oh, gosh.
And then imagine being 33 and like everyone in the whole world is like, well, now your life is over.
You're done. Yeah.
But you have 60 years.
Yeah.
You've got a long way to go. But so, yeah.
I have one that I can talk about that kind of relates to that, which is, I don't know I kind of have two, but I want to save the other one. So it's funny because this is like a real old school one, which is, I really love this book, Lady Be Good by Susan Elizabeth Phillips, about a golfer. His name's Kenny Travers, right?
Susan's favorite trope too.
Yeah.
Like retiring.
Oh yeah. And he is actually not necessarily, he's off of the pro tour because he has like pissed off whoever's in charge, who happens to be like his stepdad, of course. And what happens is this is all set in Austin, by the way, or like in Texas. Lady Emma, she's like literally a British aristocrat, like her dad was a Viscount or something, who knows?
Sure.
Gets, she's going to Texas to do some research. And essentially, Kenny gets tasked with like driving her around, but she does not realize that he is like this professional athlete. She just thinks he's this like the laziest man alive. Like he's just slow. Everything he does is slow. He just like, wanders away from her. And she's like, come on, Kenny. But the thing that I really like about this book is that the thing about Kenny is he was this phenom as a kid and he was really spoiled. So it really channels like that kind of jock archetype where he, just was this spoiled brat who was awesome at golf and got all the attention in his family because of it. And, he enters the PGA when he's really young and he has to really like make restitution for the kind of asshole that he was when he was younger because of the way people were like, well, you're great at this sport, so we're just going to lionize you. And I think it's like a really interesting way of, it was like when I think about like a sports book that's like doing something interesting with like that character, it's like that golf has been this gift for him, but also this curse, right? It just came really easily to him and he was great at it. And because of that, he got treated a certain way that turned him almost into a monster. And now he's trying to sort of like do the right thing. And it's like a really fascinating look at the way that like being brilliant at a sport can really fuck a man up, essentially.
Yeah. Well, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
I like that. I have not read that one.
It's from like the 90s, so it's definitely
Sure.
But it is hilarious and it's great and I loved it. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Isabel Morin, author of The Whole Truth.
Okay, so this one is for anybody who like maybe loved The Love Hypothesis and wants it to be a touch darker. I think that one would go, that this will work for them. Audrey Donnelly is in her last semester of college, and it starts off with a bang,
Woo,
Jen.
the best kind of bang.
Sexy grad student Jude Driscoll takes her to bed and shows her what she's been missing over the past 4 years. But obviously, there's a little push-pull here. They're super into each other. They have a ton in common. But he is a grad student, and she is an undergrad. And so there's a little bit of like, is this the right thing for us? But here's the thing. Audrey's in a journalism program and she has a plan to be a big time investigative journalist. She gets a hot tip for her next article that the star English professor at this university is preying on young women. And she decides she is going to break this story. Here's the problem. He's Jude's favorite professor. And so she needs to kind of use the relationship with Jude or her interactions with Jude to get herself kind of chameleoned into all of her investigations. And this makes it so that there's a little bit of a lie here.
Yeah.
And maybe she hasn't told him everything that she needs to tell him. And is he as good of a guy as she thinks he is? I think it's probably all going to work out there. Anyway.
We love a book with secrets, right? So this has a big potential for everybody who loves, those college romances where everything is so high stakes. You can find The Whole Truth wherever ebooks are sold. Thank you to Isabel Morin for sponsoring this week's episode.
Like if you love a sport, the book exists. Like I'm talking I found a book today about curling. Like
what?
Yes, and it's a what do we FF? How do we what's the
Yeah.
It's an FF. Let me find it. Hold on. I'm going to tell you now that I've said it. It's by Rachel Spangler. I love her book, Edge of Glory, which is about 2 Winter Olympians. And so I was looking into like what other stuff she had written, and she's written Fire and Ice, where one of the protagonists is the skipper on a champion Olympic curling team. Like literally, if you love a sport, someone has written the romance novel for you. Yeah.
So that is how I came to this episode, because I was like, we've done 2 sports episodes. Like we've talked about, the big sports. So I was like, I'm going to do books about sports that like people don't think about.
Yeah.
So I am going to start with one that I think is about to become very big, which is F1. I think we are about to come.
I also have F1 one, so I'm excited to hear which one you have.
I just think like F1 is just looking at the announcements of what gets everybody out there. There's a newsletter that gets sent out every morning, and it shows like what books have been purchased. And there are many, many F1 books that are coming in the next year or two.
Well, I live in Austin, where we have what is called the U.S. Grand Prix. There's actually 3 F1 races this year in the U.S., but Austin is the original U.S. one. And my friend, Dr. Amira Rose Davis, who loves sports romance novels and loves F1 sports romance novels, she and I went this year because we both are now addicted to the sport because of Drive to Survive on Netflix. Like, we are part of that group. And like every year now, they're setting records for how many people are showing up to this. It's not accessible. It's this track. It's way outside of town because people love it. So that makes total sense to me, Sarah, that like people are clamoring for F1 right now.
Go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was going to say, everybody, there is a small romance podcast called Racy Books where they only talk about F1 romance.
What?
And it's Hannah Ernest.
Here I am
Racy
writing
Books.
this down.
Hannah Ernest, who is
That's
like a romance
great
author.
name for the.
I know. And my
you
friend
guys,
Kate,
everybody go listen to that.
they're 2 Chicagoans.
Racy Books.
God,
Thank you,
why
Jen.
And
Thanks for knowing everything, Jen.
I'm sorry. And you know what? I hate to say it because I've never really been a car racing person, but this summer NASCAR was in Chicago and I was like, okay, that looks cool as hell. I'm sorry.
You should watch Drive to Survive. It will get you.
Okay,
it is
I
like
guess I should.
the soap opera version of F1. It's so well done.
My dad, you may not know this, Jessica, but lots of listeners do. My dad was Italian, and we watched F1 every weekend. Like, that was what was on the television. Soccer, football, and F1, and that was what was on. I do think it's really interesting. You said Drive to Survive, and I mentioned Ted Lasso earlier, and we've been talking about, I think that there is something really fascinating about the interplay right now between what media, what TV is happening, or like what streamers are running, and how it is impacting sports, right? I talked, was it on the episode or on one of the Patreon episodes about the Beckham documentary, and how like that has brought so much more attention to, the Miami soccer team and Ted Lasso. Like, so I do think, and now Taylor Swift, you brought this up at the beginning. It's not like American football was not a huge thing to begin with, but one of my favorite genres of TikTok, and it speaks to what we sort of really started with this episode, is women filming their partners as they say the words, "It's so cool that Taylor Swift really put Travis Kelce on the map," and like the partners just poof, the tops of their heads fly off. Like, how could you possibly feel that way? But like, I think, and then the NFL has been absolutely playing into it too.
Oh yeah, why would Taylor Swift is gigantic?
Exactly,
she's gigantic. Yeah, she's a force.
What's really fascinating right now, and actually a couple days ago, I saw there was an announcement of a pop star and a football player romance, like, that was purchased. So I mean, like, that's going to be a huge thing too. But anyway, I want to talk about. I'm getting past myself. I want to talk about Tamara Lush's Drive, which is an F1 romance. The hero, Dante Annunziata,
Great
is
name.
an Italian. Tamara's married to an actual Italian from Italy, and she gets it right. And so Dante is like the most arrogant, most Italian, most like fantastic F1 driver in the world. And the team is sponsored by a particular kind of, like, obviously it has a car sponsorship, but it also has there's like a Michelin, or like an American like product company, like a car company that sponsors this team. And the heroine, Savannah, her father owns this company, and she's trying to prove to her father that, like, despite being a woman in the racing world and in sports, she is good enough to ultimately take over. I think it's a tire company, because she is a tire changer. I'm using all the wrong words here, but she is like in the pit, right?
She's in the pit. Yep.
And she changes tires. And so she gets this job on the F1, and basically everybody on the team, she's the only woman, And she's the only American and the only woman, and everyone on the team thinks she got this job via nepotism, like because her dad is a sponsor. But she gets this job and she's like one of the greatest. Like she's so fast in the pit, like it's great. But she goes head to head with Dante every bit of this book because he begins the book a complete misogynist in terms of like, you're a woman, you're an American, you're clearly
you can't change my tires,
right? And like, you're not going to be good at this. And it is really great because I think it tackles a lot of the issues that we have been talking about, like what it means to be like a woman in a man's world, like of sport, what it means to have to like face all that. But also what I love about it is Savannah is extraordinarily skilled at her part of the sport.
Of the job,
right?
yeah.
And so we get to see it from both, like he's obviously in the car and he's the showman, but like her skill is unparalleled. And it's really, really fun to watch. And it's really sexy. And I think Tamara is a great writer. So,
right. And you have an F1 romance too, yeah?
I feel like I must have read that book, but now I'm going to go back and reread that book. That's one of the great things about not remembering.
Yeah, sure.
These things are new. Yeah, I was going to talk about Redeemed by Lauren Asher, which is part of it's the final book in her Dirty Air series. And mileage might vary on all these books, but this book is the final one, and it's the F1 driver Santiago. It starts, you've known him now for 3 books. You get to the 4th book, you think, oh, he's going to be the world champion. And he has been in a horrific accident, lost his leg. And it's 3 years later, he's a recluse. And this woman like literally crashes into his house.
Not me just writing this down.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you're singing my song here.
Redeemed by Lauren Asher. And she is in, I think he's Italian, and I think maybe Spanish. And she's gone there. She took a DNA test. Turns out that her dad lives next door to this driver. And then we get a fake dating trope. They end up fake dating, but you get like
romance.
I know. Like, but part of what's really lovely is it's about Santiago like finding himself again. And they talk a lot about his disability and the possibilities of him racing again, which I don't actually think would be true in real life. F1 has 20 drivers. It is so intense. Like to be a driver is just, there's maybe nothing more competitive.
F1 drivers are about to be the modern day Duke though. Like they're going to be
everywhere. There will be a million of them. For people who don't know this, like there has been a single black F1 driver in the history of the sport. It is Lewis Hamilton, for me, the greatest driver in F1 ever. But like this, talk about like, it is a very exclusive sport, very hard to break through. But you get this like journey of his to like get back to race it. And like, he doesn't want to, he's being pushed by his brother-in-law, who is also an F1 driver, of course. I think his is book 1. But it's just really interesting to see.
Throttled is that one.
Yes. To see Lauren write about this disability within the sport and the possibilities. Not that I think that would be true in real life. Again, not that I think that'd be true in real life, but I like the idea of imagining that to be a possibility.
I mean, I think that's the realm of romance, though, right? Like the fantasy of, there's something really great about the fact that you can sort of wave away what would be real in life. By the way, that's available in KU, everyone. I just bought it, so head on over.
I want to tell you about a book that I feel like you both are going, like, this catnip. This is a catnip book.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so talk about a sport that you wouldn't consider, but surfing. And there's a book called Out of the Blue by Catherine Nolan. And I read this years ago. I just reread it because I was like, oh, I have to go on this podcast. I will reread this book.
So
I love.
You did your homework. Very difficult work.
Y'all get ready for this. It's so good. So Serena Swift is a big time surfer. She is the athlete in this book. She is just gotten a huge like she's paired up with like Patagonia, like one of these outdoorsy things, and it's a big deal for her. It's actually whatever company would sell surfboards and wetsuits and that sort of thing. She's so excited. She's so happy. And they've told her that they are willing to like support all of her feminist causes within surfing. Like she's known as being the woman who speaks out against all the inequalities within the sport. But they expect that she might get threatened, right? That there could be a safety issue here. So she needs a bodyguard.
Listen, I'm like literally like, yes.
But wait for it. So
Also
she needs
in
a bodyguard.
KU, just downloaded it.
The bodyguard's name is Cope. And
Name is Destiny.
Destiny.
I'm not giving anything away because this is literally, if you read the description,
right the back.
Yeah.
They know each other because they are married, but
What?
estranged, and have been estranged for years.
Listen,
and so
I love it.
It is so good. And like part of what I love, talk about competency porn, like you learn how what she has to do to be a great surfer. Like one of my favorite scenes in the whole book is she goes to training and you find out, of course, Cope's dad was a famous surfer who died rescuing someone in the surf. So he's got his own shit around her being a big wave surfer. But you go with her to training and she has to practice holding her breath underwater in case she gets hit by a wave and has to go underwater, which Catherine brings us up because this will come up later. But you get to really
Chekhov's breath,
Yes, exactly. But you really get to learn like there's a real training here. Like this is a real expertise. You're not just jumping in the water and holding your breath for 6 minutes. Like there's a real thing that she has to do. And then you also get she's a feminist, like just so upset about the way that surfers are treated, women and marginalized surfers are treated within the sport. And she's out there talking about it and she's pushing back. And then there is someone threatening her. So you get the sort of like the little bit of thrill with like who is actually behind this, what's actually going on. And I just love this book. I just like it, just like check.
I love books about surfing, and there are so few surfing romances, so I'm definitely gonna check that out. I've like read a lot of weird books about.
There's a Vanessa North about surfers too that I will find and mention later.
Yeah, there's I think Georgia Beers has a FF one. I'm not sure I'll have. Everybody will just look at show notes and there'll be a bunch. Okay, let me talk about. Or wait, Sarah, do you want to talk about your Reese Ryan? Because it's still my last two I do want to mention are like regular sports, not like
regular. I mean, it's
they're
okay.
regular sports, not like
fine.
You're allowed. You're allowed.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about the Reese Ryan one, but no, you go, and then we'll come back around. It's called Double Up, by the way. The Vanessa North surfing book.
Okay, I want to talk about a book called Bounce Back by Nicole Falls, which is a WNBA romance. And so this is part of a series. Nicole is a Chicagoan and a friend of mine, and she's done like a 5-minute Firebird where we talked about the WNBA and how much we love it. And this is part of her series that she writes with a woman named Alexandra Warren called The Nymphs and the Trojans. They're like a Nashville NBA and WNBA team. And the reason
Nymphs and the
I know,
Trojans.
I love it. She's like, they just went all in on like sort of like this classical theme. But what I really liked about this book, and I think that it's set during the pandemic in the WNBA bubble, which I just think is
smart.
Also so fascinating to have a book. Like we've talked about like pandemic books, but here's a pandemic book that is really leveraging like this really fascinating way in which sports tried to like come back. And so the heroine's name is Micaiah Kennedy, and she calls herself OBOT, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say that another way, which stands for the old bitch on the team, because she actually has been only playing in Europe her entire career, and she's 33, and she has just gotten sort of the call up to be on the Nymphs in the WNBA, like kind of mid-season. So she has to like go into quarantine and enter the bubble and be the old woman, the elder on the team, and kind of her, she's got this young hot shot kind of, who doesn't want her there. And the love interest is a trainer, and his name is Vic. And the thing that's really interesting is she actually, they were like childhood friends.
Of course.
So, of course. So she's kind of like, they run into each other. And there's all of this like really great stuff about like, I don't know, like the bubble and like what it was how desperately she wanted to be in the WNBA. You guys, there's only 144 women in the WNBA, 144 players.
At the most. Sometimes it's a little less. Too.
Yeah. And so it's like so intense. And, her like getting called up and then like sort of, and Vic is a single dad. And his, he married, the love of his life. And she actually got cancer and died when she was, got cancer, diagnosed with cancer when she was pregnant with their daughter and like gave birth and dies pretty quickly afterwards. And now this child is like 8, I think. And so the kid comes into the bubble too. And because, she was with her grandparents, but he kind of goes and gets in. And it's just like a really fascinating, like I just loved the idea of like writing a book that is set at such a really specific time when sport was like, how do we stay relevant? And that is, of course, Micaiah's whole, like, am I still relevant as I'm, like, aging out of the sport and finally have this chance to be a rookie in, like, at 33, essentially. It's awesome. And like I said, it's part of a series that I really like. But I also just really loved, I don't know, like, how specific it was about this time. And in a way that didn't, I don't know, like, there was, like, a lot of pandemic books that just felt, like, kind of silly to me. And this one felt instead, like, really brilliant. Yeah. So that's Bounce Back by Nicole Falls.
I also have one where the heroine is the sport, the athlete. This one is Reese Ryan's Playing with Seduction, which is, I don't know what number it is. I think it's the 3rd in a series that's set around a small town. And there is the hero is an event promoter who was born and raised in North Carolina, and both the characters actually were born and raised in North Carolina, and they both had. I think what's really interesting about this is it sort of tackles the sports story that we all know and sort of think of in the zeitgeist, the mythology of the child who didn't have any other option, right? Mm-hmm. And then they got the scholarship or whatever, and they got out, so to speak, of, they broke out, the Friday Night Lights mythology, right? So Bree, our heroine, is a professional volleyball player. She plays beach volleyball.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's pretty great. And so she is done. She is the one who is like come to the end of her career. She needs to retire. And she has this plan to retire at this like massive tournament that is sponsored by like a high-end luxury resort. So she's going to play her final game, and then she's going to go off and like do her own thing. She gets the resort signs on to do this, and they assign her a very, very fancy event promoter who's been in the UK for a long, long time and been like successful in England. And he's coming home to North Carolina to be with her. And he gets there, and it turns out that 1 year ago, these two had the hottest, like most intense one-night stand, and he pieced out.
Ooh.
But and she desperately wants to be like, get the fuck out, but she can't because she needs this man. Like, she has this plan for like how her career is going to end. She has like, this is like the beach volleyball Stanley Cup, right? Like, this is what's going to happen. Everyone knows that I am like an avowed Reese Ryan fan. I have read all of her books. I think she's amazing. This one is a little bit of a road trip romance. They actually like take a tour all around. They end up having to like drive all around North Carolina to like, I don't know, vendor shit and like, like do all sorts. There are all sorts of reasons why they have to like, it is months to Jessica, you're going to love this. Like, it is months that they are together, really falling in love. And he realizes pretty quick that he is in it to win it, but he also realizes that like he can't risk ruining whatever Bree has planned. So it's pretty great. In classic Reese form, there are great like secondary characters. His mom is involved, and she's a super fun character. So it's just really fun. And also, I have never read a beach volleyball book.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
here we are. There really
exists.
It all
one
exists
for everyone.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. I want to talk about a football book, like American football.
I have one after you, so perfect.
Okay. Hopefully it's not the same one. There's so many.
I bet. Yeah, there's so many.
I want to talk about another sport baking book, Fake It Till You Bake It, by Jamie Wesley.
Sport baking.
I just looked it up the other day. I was like, when does the second one come out?
There's a fair amount of sport baking books, which is my intersection.
What do we think about
competitive men just have to go on and do other competitive things?
I don't know. But part of why I wanted to talk about this is because there is a bakery here in Austin that was started, a cupcake shop that was started by NFL players. And I've gone there, of course. Are
they good?
Yeah, they're good. They're part of a chain of some sort. But yeah, huge,
really
one of those.
Fun.
So
that's really cute.
Jamie has taken after you series.
Played a sport for this long, then you're like, I just want to shove cupcakes in my face.
Yeah. And there is something.
Were you only supposed to want to do that if you played sports first?
Well, I'm saying they probably have resisted the urge for a while.
Sure.
Yes. But so you get, I think it's 3 football players here. It's at least 2, but in this series, I think there's 3 of the guys. So I assume there'll be 3 books. But in Fake It Till You Bake It, the woman Jada, she has gone on like a Bachelor type show and rejected the man at the last second, and is like everyone hates her. It's how she perceives the world. Is that people are very, very angry at her. And then you have this professional football player in San Diego who is the owner of this cupcake shop, and she goes in with her friend, and the first scene, their meet cute, is when she's insulting the cupcakes and he's very upset. And then it's one of those perfect romance setups where he then goes to talk to the owner of the football team, who happens to be a woman. So it's like, talk about dream, that's a very rare thing. And she just so happened, I think it's her granddaughter, needs a job for 3 months. I can't remember the exact time period. Sure. Would he
romance reasons?
Right. Yeah. Would he hire her to work? And of course, exactly what is coming. And so she shows up. The woman who has insulted his cupcakes, Jada, has shown up. His name is Donovan, to the cupcake shop, and then they have to work together. And then on top of that, you get the fake dating trope, where to bring attention to the cupcake shop, which is having trouble, and to start rehabilitating her image. Some reporter thinks that they're dating, and so they start fake dating and like all the things that you want in a romance novel. And there's something so lovely about these 3 guys caring so much about their cupcakes. Like, one of the guys is in charge of flavor, and he's just like really dedicated. And Donovan's like he wants to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Right. He's like kind of running the business. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just that part of it is just so lovely. And the fact that there's actually like, I can drive 25 minutes and go to the shop and see it. And when I was there the day I went, a school group, like a group of kids had shown up, and like one of the players came out. I was there with my mother-in-law, and I was like, oh my God, that's one of the players. That's she just wanted to eat the cupcakes with me, but that was really fun. I was like, oh, this football player is showing these kids around a bakery. Like, there's something just so lovely about that.
Romance.
So
yeah, right.
Yes. Right. And then adding in the Bachelor element and like what that would be like to be a woman moving through the world where people think you chose incorrectly, and she has people yelling at her on the street about it. She's kind of just walking around waiting for someone to be mad at her. It's just a really lovely blend of all these things. So thank you, Jamie, for writing about the cupcake football players.
Yeah, the other day was like, when's that next one come out? Because I like the first one too, and it's not till I think next spring maybe. So
oh wow, you have time.
We have time, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Avon Books, publishers of Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone's A Holly Jolly Ever After.
So in this holiday romance, we have Callan Liebermanis. He's always been the funny one. He was a member of a boy band called Ink, and he had his 15 minutes of fame, but then moved back home, opened a pizza joint, and just is like living his life, right? Hooking up with bridesmaids at his friend's wedding. But then an old sex tape of his gets released, and Callum is back in the spotlight. And this time he's starring in a sexy Santa biopic for the Hope Channel. Meanwhile, Winnie Baker did everything right. She married her childhood sweetheart and sort of didn't get involved in all that. She even waited until after marriage to have sex. But her perfect life also falls apart. And she is also going to join this steamy Christmas movie with Callum. So they have a decade of old Hollywood history between them. A new situation that is leaving them hesitant. But what are Winnie and Callum going to do as they learn about pleasure and being great partners?
I
check it out.
They figure it out.
Of course they do.
You can read A Holly Jolly Ever After right now in print, ebook, or audiobook. And thanks, as always, to Avon Books for sponsoring this week's episode.
So I have an NFL book as well. And part of the reason I picked it is because I was really interesting. There's a gambling angle. Ooh. And I was like, I just thought this was interesting as sports book apps are now, you can gamble your life away on your phone, which please don't do that, everybody. It seems very dangerous. So it's called 2 Minute Warning by Alexandra Warren. And in this book, and I really like this too. So his name is Kendall Dogwood, but of course everyone calls him Snoop Dogwood. And he was the backup quarterback on this fictional, I think, Houston team. I can't remember, the Sky Riders or so. I can't remember the name of the team, but it's a Houston NFL team. And so he kind of took over and had a pretty good season, kind of came off the bench with and was great until he threw this an interception everyone will remember forever, or some kind of turnover. And so he went from being the hero of this team where all of a sudden he turned their season around to now he essentially has to try out again to be the quarterback against the guy who was there before, right? So it starts off in the preseason with him kind of in this thing, and he meets this woman, Kiki, her real name's Shakira, and they have this there's a lot of super cute banter in this book. A lot of sexy banter too. And anyway, they kind of hit it off. But what he finds out is that her father, and she's just a social media influencer. She's just, makes money because she's beautiful and does all this stuff. And so everyone's watching them, kind of fall in love. But what he finds out is that her father essentially makes money by gambling on sports, and he's a big name in sort of sports gambling. And so his friend is you can date her, but you cannot have anything to do with her father. And so he just really, because he's immediately everyone will assume that you know what I mean? Anything that goes wrong, I mean, it's really dangerous for you.
Talk about great stakes, though. That is a risky business.
Yes. And I was this is what I want. The stakes are sky high. So although their romance is pretty okay, you know what I mean? They get each other and they're vibing, and they have great sex. There's a really funny scene I don't want to give away right after they have sex where she texts. I'm going to give it away every day. Sorry. Skip forward 15 seconds because I laughed out loud. She's she gets on the phone and I'm going to text my friends and be I hit that and it was great. And she accidentally texted him. And so then he comes.
Perfect.
And I was listen, this is everything I want in a book. I literally could not love this book more. And then, so the first time her dad just shows up, he kind of takes off really fast. And she's assuming it's because oh, he didn't want to meet my dad. Right?
Which is
too soon.
Yeah, this is okay. Every person who's misunderstandings are stupid. This is the kind of misunderstanding that works perfectly.
Yes. So she's oh, he just, it's too early in our relationship for him to meet my dad. And he's no, I can't meet your dad. And it's really, I would say, one of the books I have read most recently where I have been now this is conflict. Right?
Yeah. Actual.
And he gets into big trouble and starts losing. And now, she's kind of wait, what's happening with my dad? And why is he showing my house beat up? It's so good. And I was this is a book that really understands, the stakes are through the roof. And it's all so fascinating and really driven by, again, like this idea of like your legacy and your loyalty to your team and yourself and how, like who can ask you to do what. And it was a great book, everybody. Also in KU.
Wow.
So that's 2 Minute Warning by Alexandra Warren.
These are wonderful. I did want to mention that we recently had 2 big YA novels about sports. Like Talia Hibbert just released Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute, and it's a football player. The guy's a football player. And then we had Rebecca Weatherspoon's Her Good Side, where the girl in high school is a basketball player and her moms are WNBA players, and they have like pressured her to play basketball, but she wants to be a chef. This made me think. So I realized that I just was in LA last week and gone to the Rip Bodice and just saw Talia Hibbert.
Before you go ahead and say that, because I have one I want to mention too, another YA romance, but tell that story first.
Oh, I just was in LA. I went to the Rip Bodice, as you do, and they had Talia Hibbert's book. I think it's a book club book maybe for them. And I looked at the back and I was like, oh gosh, she wrote a YA about a football player. Like, how amazing. But this made me think about a book that I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
And this is, I think I need I feel like I might say the name wrong. So this made me think about a book that I read years ago called There's Something About Sweetie by Zendaya Menon. And Sweetie, I actually listened to the audiobook. I loved this book. Like I wanted to read everything by her after I read this. Sweetie is a track star in California, but she's like a fat brown girl who is just constantly working against her parents, other people. Mm-hmm. They don't believe that she's as good and as fast as she is. But she's also just the most delightful. Like, just, I loved everything about Sweetie. And so like, I kind of like I looked it up. The guy's name is Ash, and like, I kind of remember him, but like, I remember Sweetie, and I just was so happy to read. And it's just a sweet book. I love just the banter. I mean, part of that might have been the audio book of it all, but like I loved the banter. Definitely go listen to this if you have the opportunity. I'm sure that I got it from my library on Libby or something like that. But I just love that we have these YA sports romance novels with, I think in all 3 of those books, they are fat girls, like moving through the world in these bodies, and 2 of them, they're athletes. And I just think that's just something I wish I had when I was a big girl moving through the world.
Yeah. Well, let me add a book that will, I think, fit in with that, like in terms of, this body I have, which is last year I went to a YA romance conference in Las Vegas and saw a transgender author named Z.R. Eller. And Z.R. has written a book called May the Best Man Win. And in this book, Jeremy Harkness is a trans boy who's a senior, right? Who just transitioned. But Jeremy used to be the cheerleading captain who dated like the homecoming king, like, or the like all-star football player Lucas. And so now they're seniors, and they broken up because I think Jeremy was like, I have to break up with you to come out as trans. But like, he's also like, listen, I'm going to make some noise. I'm not going to let people like sort of push me into the corner. And so Jeremy decides to run against his ex-boyfriend Lucas for the title of homecoming king. And if this is not like the YA like romance like we have all been waiting for, right? And so Lucas is like, has been going through some stuff on his own. I think his sibling died. He lost his girlfriend who's now a boy, and and now this guy's trying to steal his like homecoming crown, right? And so I just thought it was, all about rivalry, but also, of course, all about love. And the fact that we have like trans authors writing trans romance, right, for that includes sports and,
sports,
kind of right, the way we feel about ourselves and our bodies as we play sports, I just think is, again, like, what a time to be alive, right?
Yes.
And I saw this author speak and just was really won over by the way he talked about like why he wanted to write this book and how important it was, just to like sort of tell this story. So that is May the Best Man Win.
Great title. Like perfect title. Wow.
Well, listen, through about half of this podcast, I have been trying to remember the name of a book that I recently read where the hero was so into the heroine, but also so competent in sports that he realized he had no question that he could do both, like have the heroine and also have the sports. But everyone else around him was not sure about this. And so he ended up getting benched. And then I remembered it's like episode 3 of the Beckham documentary.
I love that.
And so there it is. If you're also just looking for something to watch.
Well, I mean, it's so fascinating to me, the Beckham diary, or Beckham documentary, that the scene of him dancing with Victoria has like been this thing that's ever, because they just look so sweet together. You're talking about celebrity, celebrity athlete, like, for
but
those of our generation.
This whole time I was like, that was so romantic. And what was it? And he like sat the bench. And what was that?
It was just David Beckham.
It was
David
just
Beckham.
David Beckham's real life.
It's possible.
Back to Travis Kelce, my husband, who I recently found out has over 70 fantasy football teams. Everybody, it's fine. 50 of them, he says, are just like set them and forget them.
Romance novels, though.
I don't. That's what I say to him. I'm like, I'm not judging you how many romance novels I have. It's fine. 50 of them are just like set them and forget them.
Stresses me out.
He is like actively managing like 20 fantasy football teams. He loves it. But he the other day was like, he's like, do you know about like this Taylor Swift person dating Travis Kelce? And I was like, I try not to, but yes.
Never heard of her.
I'm aware. Is, like, it's bringing people together.
It's bringing us together.
Like, across the United States, there are plenty of couples where they just don't talk about the things they're into. And right now, so many of them are smashing their interests and also hopefully other things.
I feel like I do want to thank the WNBA, though, because I have found like this is the sport like we enjoy together, right? Like we go to these games and we have a great time and like it's like a real like kind of ongoing source of conversation. Like we just hired Teresa Weatherspoon to be our next coach.
I'm so excited about that. I love
so
Spoon.
excited about that. Yes. And like it just feels like such a we're talking about the WNBA draft coming up and it's just awesome to kind of feel like I've never really felt I could be a part of that world, right? Mm-hmm. And he is, it's funny, there was this great tweet the other day that was like, if you want to know something about like a man, like ask him what he thinks of the WNBA. And my husband just like loves it. He loves the WNBA. And I told him about that dumb man who was like, oh yeah, a high school boys basketball team could beat the WNBA. And he just was like, that's ridiculous. And I was like, reader, I married him. That's how I felt.
Oh,
I did.
I love that. Can I tell you a story that you could totally cut? That is just a Teresa Weatherspoon story.
Oh, yeah, please do.
So I am working on a dissertation right now in sports studies at UT, and it's about the UT women's basketball team in the 1970s. And so behind me, let's see if I can get my finger in it. No, that woman over there, she's on the Great Wall of China, and she's doing the Longhorn sign. I think that was 1978. She was the first Black female athlete at UT, and she played basketball. Her name was Retha Swindell. And so she's one of the main people that I'm looking at because I'm interested in the racial integration as well as the gender integration at UT in the 1970s. And so I was preparing to go interview her. And so I'm just reading like everything that I can. And after she left UT, she played a little bit of pro ball and then went into coaching like a lot of the women actually did from those teams. And she coached Teresa Weatherspoon. And so she's like, yeah, I coached a little bit in Houston. And I was like, you coached Teresa Weatherspoon, right? And she was like, yeah, I did. And she told me, and I haven't actually done it yet, but when Spoon was inducted into the Hall of Fame, she mentions Retha in her speech. She's like, she mentioned me in her speech, but I was just like, wow. Like, I just love the legacy when you're like, you can see literally how these things worked. But that, I was like, I'm 1 degree away.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, at the WNBA finals, like seeing Dawn Staley, like, right, go back and see her players, right, that she coached, or right I mean, I just think it's yeah, you guys, if you're the WNBA is fucking awesome. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. Like one of the hardest things about living in Austin, we have obviously a great collegiate school. You know, I certainly will go watch some of those games, but we don't have professional sports here, which is part of why I was like, oh, soccer? Sure. I will. Yeah. My husband was willing to go all in with me. He's not a sports person. We also happen to live very close to the stadium, so it's convenient. But there's lots of reasons why I don't think the NWSL will come here, in part because Texas is not a great place to be sending women at all. But man, I would love it. Like I was like, I'm, praying. I'm like, please, because I'm with you, Jen. Like I just love what it feels like to attend women's sporting events, and I would just give anything. Like we used to have a WNBA team in San Antonio, which is now the Las Vegas Aces, and they moved years ago. But there was like a little blip in time where I went down for a few games in San Antonio, but the closest one now is Dallas, and it's 2.5 hours away, and it's like just too much. But during the summer, if I travel to like I've seen the Atlanta Dream. I'm trying to remember. I feel like there's another team.
Come to Chicago next summer because we have great seats. I'll be like, I'm sorry, Daryl, you can't come. Jessica Luther's here with me this week.
This is one of my gripes just with women's sports in general. Is you can't get jerseys. Yeah. And my husband loves Allie Quigley. And so for like 2 years, I was like, I'm going to get him an Allie Quigley jersey, and I'm going to get myself a Courtney Vandersloot jersey because they played together on the Chicago Sky. And I was like, this will be the cutest thing in the world. And then he will have a Quigley jersey, and you just couldn't. Yeah. They won the championship, and I couldn't get them. And I was just like,
just leaving money on the table.
I know. I know. Hell? And now
go to eBay, go to Etsy. Somebody on Etsy is making them.
I know it's true, but now Quigley is not playing right now in Vandersloot's with the Liberty, so that moment is gone. But
halfway through game 4, I switched. I was like, I love Courtney Vandersloot, so I was like, I'm gonna vote for, I'm gonna root for the Liberty, and then I was like, oh no, Aces all the way. I just was like, boom. I was like, sorry, Courtney, you are not enough weight to like kind of pull me away from whatever magic is happening over here.
But yeah, so the Sky were my husband's team there for a little bit, so he was deeply invested in Allie Quigley. But I know it's true.
Well, Jessica Luther, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us and talking about sports romance and sports in general with us. If you want to learn more about Jessica or hear more from her, you can listen to her podcast, Burn It All Down. I assume all the episodes are still available.
They are.
Links in show notes. She has 2 brilliant books. The first is Unsportsmanlike Conduct, College Football and the Politics of Rape. And the other is Loving Sports When They Don't Love You Back, Dilemmas of the Modern Sports Fan. Jessica, where else can people find you?
On social media, my handle is Jessica W. Luther. I technically have a Twitter account, but I haven't logged on in quite a while. But I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm feeling it out. But Instagram probably would be the best place. But if you want to get in touch, if you have a book that I should read and you need to tell me about it, you can always go to my website, which is jessicawluther.com, and email me there. And I would be happy to email with you about sports romances that you love.
This is Fated Mates, everyone. I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here every Wednesday with my friend Jen Prokop. You can find us at fatedmates.net and in your ear holes every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at FatedMatesPod, at Twitter still at Fated Mates, Blue Sky, fatedmates.net, and Threads at Fated Mates Pod. We're sort of all places and in no places. But if you love listening to us, you should also join our Patreon, fatedmates.net/Patreon. We have an amazing, very vibrant Discord. And also you get to hear us banter once a month in your ears. So thanks so much. We hope that you are watching sports, reading sports, loving sports, and find your local women's sports teams.